All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Super excited for this. We've got a few people out grabbing food still, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And so thank you. I think before we kick things off, we're going to have Coulter from Kiln just come up and get a little bit of an introduction. But we are super grateful for Kiln for allowing us to have this here today. They are a fantastic partner. And Coulter, go ahead. Come on up. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay.
All right, welcome in. You guys know how to fill a room pretty well and get some good food. My name's Coulter. I'm part of the member success team here. And so what I get to do is learn about different businesses and then pair you with what we have available on site. Now, my background, though, is a little bit different. I'm an artist, and I got introduced to Kiln through an artist in residency program here. And I fell in love with the design of the space, the team that we have here, and wanted to be a part of it. And I think in a broader sense that's really what Kiln is trying to do, is we're trying to bring together people from a variety of different backgrounds to create a really creative and collaborative environment. You know, the different companies that we have here range from, your stereotypical tech side, your SaaS and software development programs, to solar, to lawyers, and is a really good space for being able to connect and network, which is honestly why you guys are here today. But beyond just providing people with a space to live out their working lives, we hope that the experience that you have here bleeds into then what you're taking home, that you can feel uplifted and feel excited about the place that you're working, so that, when you're going home to your family, it's a good person that you're bringing home there as well. I would be happy after this, if any of you are interested in a tour or seeing and learning more about Kiln and what we have to offer, of being able to do that for you and seeing how we can help be a success partner for you in your business. So, thank you.
All right, Coulter. All righty. Thank you, Coulter. Okay, well, we're very excited today to get a little bit of expertise on the go-to-market. And I'm David Baker. I work with CMO Zen. I'm one of the fractional CMOs. But you're not here to hear from me. Who you are here to hear from is we have Blake Harbor. And Blake has been in the SaaS area for a big chunk of his career. You may recognize some of the names he's been with, Lucid and HireView. He's been on both sales and marketing sides of the business. So he'll be speaking with us first. Then we'll hear from Courtney Osborne. Courtney has been with a couple unicorns here locally, Qualtrics and Weave, and is now doing fractional CMO consulting as well. And she wants to say, if there's any fellow Oprah lovers out there, then she's a kindred spirit to you. So big Oprah fan. And then we'll hear from Chad. Chad Jardine is the founder and president of CMO Zen. And CMO Zen, we can tell you more about that, but they are fractional CMOs and have worked with a number of companies here in the area and across the nation, providing fractional CMO support. So we will kick things over, unless, Chad, you have anything else to say? So we'll start with Blake, and thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Blake Harbor. I'll tell you a little bit about my background and then stuff that's more cool than this. Was early at HireView. Ben Martinez, I got to hang out with this guy. If you don't know him, runs an incredible recruiting firm. Connect with him to help you find great talent. Spent a few years there. Went to Lucid. They were mostly product led. At that point, ended up building the sales team there. Ended up running the mid-market segment of the business. Scaled to 100 million in a couple years. Then joined a company called Workstream. You've probably never heard of them, based out of Palo Alto. And we built a team here in Utah. Joined at about 400K. We went to 20 million in 2 years. A crazy ass ride. Ended up raising $100 million Series B. And honestly, I sold my soul and realized there was probably more to life. So that leads me to who I actually am, which is I'm a dad. I've got 4 young kids. They're 9, 8, 5, and 4. I love camping and a lot of soccer, but that's mostly because I have 4 kids and that's like freaking life right now is 6 days a week soccer, which we love, mostly under 10-year-old soccer, not big kid soccer. And then I love breaking status quo. I don't really know what that means other than like, I don't know. I hate the traditional stuff. What's most important about me is we bought a vending business called Stock and Snack Vending. If you see a vending machine, buy it or buy something from it. My goal is to sell 100 million treats to people someday. Anyways, it's great business. And I now spend most of my time, I work in a fractional capacity with early stage founders to build repeatable, scalable sales motions. I also, we're buying and operating small businesses. So I believe in like stuff outside of tech too, that there's a world where you can make a lot of money and be very successful buying weird ass businesses like vending machines. So anyways, if you want to talk about that, I love that stuff. It's super fun. And happy to talk about it all day. Plus I have some hope that this is my philosophy in life. If SaaS doesn't work out, buy a vending machine route. That's my philosophy. So yeah. Don't buy them here in Salt Lake. Go somewhere else and buy them. Yes, that's right. Or if you find a route available, let me know and I will probably buy it. Or we could partner on it, whatever. I'm open to ideas. Anyways, I write all this stuff in public. This is my plug, the only plug I'm asking for today. Check out my Substack. It's super fun. It doesn't just subscribe to it. I don't know. I talk about dumb stuff on there and buying businesses. Anyways, what we're actually talking about today, give me an idea who's in the room. We have SaaS companies. If you're part of a SaaS company, raise your hand. Oh, wow. Not everyone is SaaS. Okay. What other businesses do we have? If you're not SaaS, what are you? Solar. Okay. Services. Somewhere over there. Logistics. Okay. Medical. Okay. All right. Cool. Most of this should be relevant. Can you give me an idea of size? Are we like startup, sub 1 million in revenue? Majority. Okay. Zero revenue? Are we pre-revenue? Anyone? Okay. All right. Relatively early. Okay. I've been really fortunate to build a handful of sales teams here in the Valley at mostly early stage companies. It's what I love. It's what I enjoy. It's where I consult right now. Is more often than not, they're pre-product market fit companies trying to figure out how can we build some repeatability, build some pattern recognition early on, and find channels that scale. So that's what we're going to talk about here. I'm going to walk through an example. Everybody know Jimmy John's? All right. At Workstream, we sold a Jimmy John's. This is one of our first customers, a guy named Jeff Fort. Jeff Fort had 66 stores up in Ohio, I think. Yeah, Central Ohio. When I joined Workstream, about 400K of revenue. Our customer base was like weird. It was restaurants to assisted living communities to a lot of different stuff. But Jeff Fort was very successful. And what we recognized, well, a handful of things I want to talk about. He was in Central Ohio. He was part of a franchise advisory committee. So in big franchises, they have a group of people that basically like talk on behalf of franchisees. He had about 5 district managers. The average unit value of a Jimmy John's is anywhere from $900K to $1 million. I know some weird ass facts about restaurants and weird stuff. Ask me anytime. Don't buy them. I don't think they're a great investment, but I could be proven wrong. And they average about 12 to 15 employees per store. This will be relevant as we talk through some of this, okay? So this is one of our earliest customers of Workstream. As we started to hone in on our go-to-market strategy, this really stood out to us. And we triple-clicked into like Jeff Fort and what was working here. So I want to talk about, as you're thinking about early stage go-to-market, 3 areas of focus. And what we're looking for is your ability to increase your activity into a market or an ICP. We're looking to reduce friction, especially at early days. And we're looking to increase velocity as quickly as we possibly can, okay? I'm gonna get really tactical here for a minute. So keep these 3 things in mind as we go through some of this. My slides are always off. If you've ever worked with me, you know my slides are screwed up all the time. Okay, Number one, when you're in the early days, everyone's done this ICP profiling, and these guys are freaking experts. They're going to talk way more about this and are 10 times better at this than I am. But we're looking for company lookalikes of some of your best customers. Now, keep in mind, I'm looking for increased activity, reducing friction, and increasing velocity. Okay, those things matter because as I look at the longevity or the bigger picture down the road, the unit economics of the business have to make sense in order to scale a team to do what I'm doing as founder-led sales. Okay. Second piece is my target buyers, and I'm thinking about who I'm selling to with this in mind. Can I increase activity because there's a lot of these people out there? Can I reduce the friction because I'm one layer removed from my buyer? If you're 3 layers removed from your buyer, if you're running a product-led growth motion and you're talking to end users and there's 6 layers removed from someone that has a credit card, it's gonna be a pain in the ass, honestly, and you're gonna have a really hard time scaling a team that's going to market direct. You just need to double down to PLG, okay? I need to be able to increase velocity. I need to shorten the time that it takes me to engage a customer to get a deal done. Your target message matters in here and what you're saying, obviously. I think it goes without saying. Like who you're talking to from a company standpoint, the buyers you're trying to engage, and what's resonating to get them on the phone. We'll talk through some of the metrics to measure in just a minute here. And what channel are you using to get in front of them? There's a lot of different channels to be testing. We're going to talk through an actual example of what this should look like. So 3 tips to be thinking about as you're trying to work through early stages, go to market, and figure out a channel that fits. Measure these things meticulously, okay? I'm talking about granular details of how many people you're trying to reach out to, what's happening to those, and driving consistency around your message, your target market fit. We'll talk through an example here in a sec. When you start to gain momentum anywhere, for example, Jimmy John's, all we saw was he was Jimmy John's. He was a franchisee at 66 stores in Ohio. We had momentum there. There was energy. Jeff Fort was talking about Workstream. We doubled down there. We went to Jimmy John's owners that had more than 30 stores in the Ohio area. And Jeff Fort got really sick of us talking about him, but it worked really well. And then narrow way down. I work with so many companies that your story you're telling your investors is not real. Well, I shouldn't say it's not real. Don't get me wrong. It's not actually what you're doing on a daily basis. You need to narrow so far in that you're scared of your TAM often and wondering how the hell are we supposed to expand outside of this? It's the only way to gain traction early on. Okay. So very tactically speaking here, this is what this would look like in this scenario, what I would do. I would narrow in on 100 companies. Okay. Get as granular as you possibly can here. This is the Jimmy John's example. We'll come back to that in a minute here. I'm going to decide on 2 buyer profiles. Okay. We're going to try and target VP of Ops. We're going to try and target the CEO here. And that's it. Next thing you do, I'm going to craft a message that I think will resonate with them and get them on calls. And we're going to try 2 different messages, maybe even 1, honestly. And the next one, we're going to choose 1, maybe 2 channels. Okay. Can I pick up a phone and get someone on the phone? Or can I pick up the phone, call the front desk, and get an owner on the phone? Is it a combination of phone and email? Is it a combination of phone, email, events? Try 1 channel, pick 1 thing, paid, search, whatever it needs to be, and work on that for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Okay? In the exact Jimmy John's example, this is exactly what we did. We built our target profile. We wanted to target Jimmy John's owners between 3 and 50 locations in Ohio and the surrounding areas. That was it. Once we gained traction in Jimmy John's, we just went to the next franchisee that looked just like this. That was, where's Chris? What was after Jimmy John's? I can't remember. Wingstop or something? Wingstop. In Ohio area, 3 to 50 owners, 3 to 50 locations, and just did the same thing because they happen to all know each other. And then what we found is like Jimmy John's owners also own this other brand. And now all of a sudden we can go to that brand and so on and so forth. So our really, really narrow focus allows us to expand quicker. We targeted on the CEO and VP of Ops. That almost never changed in the course of 3 years of Workstream. Our target message was really straightforward and simple. And we narrowed in on this eventually. But this is like some of the messaging that was resonating really early on. And our direct outbound channel, we could pick up a phone, we could call someone and we could get them on the phone. So if we come back to this, the 3 areas of focus, we're able to increase our activity because there's a ton of these buyers. We're able to reduce the friction of someone making a purchasing decision. And we were able to increase the velocity to where sales cycles were 10 days on average. I screwed up my slide. Hang on. What's next? Don't really know. Okay, here we go. What to measure. So as you're working through these things, here's a few examples of what I measure, and there's a lot more you can do here to get as granular as possible, understanding what's working and what's not. First one's going to be how many inputs does it take to get one meeting? That might be how many cold calls plus emails plus LinkedIn touches, how many cold calls plus any events you go to, and how many people are talking to the event, whatever it needs to be to get one meeting. How many meetings are turning into qualified opportunities? Or how many meetings does it take to get a qualified opportunity? How many qualified opportunities to a closed deal? You can get more granular here if you want, but in the early days, this is all that matters. Is if you can measure this stuff really consistently, you can come back to this circle here and rinse and repeat over and over again. And you can check this every 2 weeks. You might spend 2 weeks targeting Jimmy John's over 3 to 50 stores with a certain channel or a certain buyer with a message. And one of those things might be off because you got nothing. Okay. That's where you come back to and start redesigning it. Okay. Any questions, feedback? That was fast. Yep. Awesome. This is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I won't reply to you on LinkedIn. So you're better off emailing me or texting me. Did you have a question? I could be wrong here. I'm a huge fan of scripting very early for the exact reason of I don't want the message to be different. That makes sense? So I want that message to be very tight. You write it, rep follows it religiously. They don't get freedom until we start gaining momentum. Okay? Because otherwise I can't test. I mean, that's the only constant, right? And if 4 reps are saying something different, you're going to get down the road. Maybe you got $2 million in revenue, but like you're going to have to rewrite that and go back to that some point and say, well, what's actually working here? Because John is sucking and not hitting his number, but Amy is crushing her number and she does it a little bit differently. I don't want that. I want to validate that early on. Yep. When I come back to this is what I want to focus on. Which of those areas, which of those ICPs can I increase activity because there's enough runway? Can I reduce the friction? Which one has the least amount of friction to get a deal done? And how quickly can I get those deals done? An example, if you're selling a hospital system and you know there's a ton of CFOs of hospital systems, maybe you can call them and get them on the phone, but it's going to screw your velocity, especially if you're an expensive tool that touches HR or something, right? Let's stay far away from it. I'm looking to optimize for all 3 of these early on. This is my criteria. Yeah, and to be clear, and I should preface early on. I'm not an enterprise guy, so don't ask me. Probably not relevant. I don't know. I don't do enterprise deals. I'm a mid-market SMB. So I optimize for building inside sales functions that can sell up to $50,000 ACVs and scale around that. This will allow you to build the infrastructure where the unit economics probably can make sense at scale. Yeah. I would take it probably a few weeks at a time. I would come up with this. I would start and give it 2 weeks at a time and then start to iterate from there. And I would try to only tweak one thing at a time. You got to obviously come up with some hypothesis of like, hey, maybe our target profile, maybe we're getting calls scheduled with this buyer profile, or sorry, the target company and the buyer profile, but we're having discovery calls and they're falling off. Your message, revisit your message. That makes sense? Ooh, this is like the great dilemma of life. I don't know. It depends. It depends. Maybe there's a few ways to think about it. If the founder is really good at sales, and can close, I would probably lean into that. So in other words, some of these things would be figured out at that point, I would imagine, right? The downside is founders then promote themselves to be an SDR manager, which is the worst job ever. You know that. Like, this guy personally knows that. And they're not good at that. So I'm usually more of a fan of finding full cycle AEs, and with the way the market is, you can find that. And there's very talented AEs that can be full cycle. There's pros and cons of that as well. But if a founder is selling, they're good at selling, I would try to lean into that and try and get them more opportunities until they break. Because they need to figure out some sort of playbook that's at least somewhat repeatable there before they go hire number 3, 4, 5. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm Courtney Osborne. This is me as a worker in the workforce. You know, I led marketing at Weave. I worked at Qualtrics for 8.5 years. Studied marketing at Georgetown University. And the only plug I'm going to get is I'm on the board. I'm the board chair for the UVU Women's Success Center. So if you're interested in starting a scholarship for a woman in our valley, please come talk to me. If you want to put your name on a building, we are looking for someone to name the Women's Success Center. So also come talk to me if you happen to have like $5 million. That would be super cool. Okay. That's my only plug. But this is who I really am. And this is how I am 7.5 months pregnant. So if I just sit down or have to go to the bathroom in the middle of this thing, just like go with it. If I'm out of breath, it's not because I'm nervous. Just old and pregnant. It's fine. But I am married to a CRO. So I'm proof that sales and marketing can get along. Okay. I have 7.5 creatures that live in my house. So 3 kids, 1 on the way, a dog and a fish. I love pasta. I'm obsessed with women pursuing their education. It's why I'm here, is because I was a first-gen college student. And I'm actually currently obsessed with Jimmy John's. It is my fixation right now. Yeah, that number 12 Beach Club every day. I would eat it every single day. And I almost wore sweatpants to this, and my husband said I was not allowed to. So I'm wearing a tent of a dress because that's all that fits me. But I am in marketing, and there's a big, this presentation is going to become a broad brush because there's B2B here, there's B2C here, there's all sorts of things. But there's one thing that I find is people expect marketing to be this coin-operated machine that I put in a quarter vending machines and I get $10,000 back in revenue. Okay. It's not that way. And we'll talk through some of the things that makes it that way. But really, it's 50 different dials that can get you where you want to go. And each company is going to be different. And so today, in that broad brush, I'm going to talk about some foundations that you can put into place for you to set yourself up for success. The first thing is I love sales. I love them. I actually have a hat my husband bought me. This is I love sales. And any B2C, sorry, I looked at registration can B2C. So this doesn't apply to you. I do believe in hiring sales first. So as a marketer, hire sales first. Unless you're B2C, I think it's okay to do it at the same time because there's a little bit more coin-operated motions with B2C. But here's once you have that sales foundation, after you have that founder-led sales, after you've proved things out, here are some things I would do as you think to start marketing. The first is define what marketing means to your organization. Who in here currently has marketing? Okay. Who that raised their hands have a definition for what marketing is at their organization? No hands. Okay. Oh, I like you. You're probably the first person that I've ever known that does. What? Oh, drive. Okay. Okay. Yep. That sounds about right. I just want more leads. Okay. I agree. But I do think that defining what it means, now that you have your salesperson, define what marketing is going to do to support the organization and the bigger goals. And it could be drive revenue, but in very rare cases, does marketing have control over revenue, right? That's why you have salespeople. So you need to define what marketing means for your organization, and align it to the top-down goals, which is revenue, right? This is an example. A few of my Weave colleagues, we had about a 50-person marketing team. 15 of those were SDRs. So let's cut that down to about 35. 35 people on a marketing team, and not one single person did the same thing that the person next to them did. Okay? Marketing is a very big definition when you look at everything. So you could be somebody that's over SEO. You could be someone over PPC. You could be a videographer. You could be a designer. You could be event coordinator. You could be all of these different things, and it's under the umbrella of marketing. That's why you need to define your marketing so that you can then bring in the people that will build it the right way. Okay. Next is align. So after you define, align it to the appropriate metrics. Blake mentioned some of the metrics that he measures. Align it both on the team level of marketing and that definition on the individual marketer. Because again, if I am the person that's over the blog, okay, I'm not going to be in charge of how many registrants come to a webinar. I'm going to be in charge of how many website visitors I get to that blog using SEO keywords, length, all of that stuff. So align it to things marketing can actually own. And it kind of goes to this. This is a sales funnel that is pretty standard sales funnel. Really, marketing can really only influence the top 3. If you mostly, unless your marketing is sales, it really can only focus on awareness, education, discovery. Then it goes to sales, and sales then goes to revenue, right? So it is alignment of what metrics you want to do. Here's some examples. You could do impressions, you could do MQLs, SQLs, and then the next thing is to assign responsibility. So open communication between teams if you're small or big. Don't measure lagging indicators and stop pointing fingers. Okay? Stop pointing fingers at your sales rep. Oh my gosh, well, that was a great lead. Sales rep, stop pointing fingers on marketing. Like, that sucks. Continuously refine some of the things Blake had said to say, is that the right person? Are we talking to the right person? Okay. This might look familiar to a few people. Here is an example of an assignment, right? And how you align accountability between sales and marketing. Okay. If number of leads is what your goal is, well, then you need to be accountable for not just number of leads, but the percentage that they actually qualified. Okay. Then if you have an SDR team, if you're smaller, you probably don't have this in between. Okay, the sets, but then how many actually completed, right? So cross accountability, I'm really big on, especially in setting up new organizations, for getting that internal foundation. So internal acts for a better foundation, define, align, and assign. So that is something that you have full control over. There's nothing out there in the market that's going to define this for you. But if you start here, you're going to avoid a lot of friction that Blake had mentioned in you going to market with marketing. Okay. I'm going to do this a little bit faster because this section he covered quite well. But one, create a clear positioning statement. And here is the way a framework to do that is your target audience, your frame of reference, unique selling position, and reasons to believe. Prelude. I didn't know Garrett was going to be here. I actually stole this from his company because I really like his framework. This is his framework for creating a positioning statement. And this is an example, right? For a unique food experience loving consumer target audience, so-and-so is a leading provider of delicious organic gluten-free snacks, frame of reference, that offers delicious taste and superior nutrition. This is quite long, but just for the sake of example, unique selling position. And our products are made from sustainably sourced ingredients and have received top ratings from nutrition experts. Reasons to believe. Okay. So those 4 things. Coming back. Target audience, frame of reference, unique selling position, and reasons to believe. This goes to having those scripts, having those messages, having those things that, you can just go back to and test and refine. Know who you're targeting. We talked about that. Even if it's a test, even if you're right out of the gates and you're like, I'm just going to go test this. I have no data to support it, right? Because you're 0 revenue right now. Test it and then moved on to the next thing. Because if you are trying to take a shotgun approach, it's going to be hard to figure out what's actually working. Example of target audience questions you could ask, right? Demographic. You guys know a lot about me now in my brief introduction. Do you think that I'm really that interested in protein powder for bodybuilding right now? No, right? Because you know that I'm pregnant and I have kids and I'm not interested in that, right? Would I potentially be interested in a snoo bassinet? Yes, thumbs up. Should I buy it? Gosh, it's so expensive. And this is my last one. Oh, okay. All right. But I would be probably interested in that, right? So here are some ICP questions you can ask to get to that target audience. I'm going to use the Barbie movie. It's on my mind. Who in here saw the Barbie movie? Raise your hand high. Come on, be proud. Be proud. Okay. I said to my husband, I was like, gosh, it was, as a marketer, probably the biggest integrated marketing campaign I have ever seen. Okay. I loved it. But I said to my husband, I said, gosh, I sure hope this movie is great because they have spent a lot of money on marketing. And he goes, really? I haven't seen anything. Okay, everybody that raised your hand, that's a man. How many of you went with a woman to the movie? Nearly every single one of you, right? Because you were not the target audience for that. There were a few that I was confused by, like the Burger King one. I was really confused by that brand collaboration. But you weren't the target audience. You probably didn't see as much as your significant other or wife or friend or girlfriend saw. So that's just an example of going after that target audience. And as a result, became like the biggest grossing movie ever, right? Yeah. And we'll send these out too. I am going to be Midge for Halloween, by the way. Just, if you've seen the movie, that's who I'm going to be. My husband's going to be Alan. So it's going to be great. Relevance, efficiency, better engagement, improved conversion. So that's kind of some of those summaries. Now I'm just going to quickly go over some external foundations as well. The first is your own website, okay? 87% of all shopping for both services and consumer goods start with an online search. You're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you are not optimizing your own website first. I think so many people, having seen a lot of people in my consulting over the last few years, jump straight to paid ads. Or they go to an agency and they go, oh, I'm going to do PPC. Because it is kind of nice because you can see and it helps you, but they haven't actually optimized here. Okay? Have a great website, understand who that target market is, have things that represent them, have pictures that represent your target market on your website. Desktop and mobile optimization. I was looking for soccer team for my 5-year-old. I went to 3 different websites and I shouldn't care that much. They were horrible. And I don't go with any of them just because I couldn't figure out how to contact them. Okay. Like you are trying to get people to go to your soccer camp and you don't have a good contact form. Like Just make it easy. You guys are consumers yourself. You know what you expect. Put that on your websites, okay? And then strategic call to actions, meaning when you have people that have actually landed on your website, that's sometimes the hardest thing. Make sure that you're engaging with them and getting them to do what you want them to do. Learn more, set a demo, incentivize them, okay? This one is really interesting to me as well, is I tried to make this like every single person can do this. Your business, Google business page. Whether you're B2B, B2C, you need to have one of these and it needs to be updated, okay? It is the new yellow pages. And add pictures. It might not seem like that because you're like, well, who's Googling me? Well, that's some of the things that will come up first, and Google is going to incentivize their own services, right? So update your Google My Business page. And then here's a few unpaid channels, and then I will wrap up here. Is one, email is not dead. So these are channels. Now you can't only do email, but things that you don't have to pay for that you can start building. Does anybody remember, I think it was it 2021? I love social media. I think it's awesome and it's free. I think it was 2021 when Instagram went down for like 6 hours. Anybody remember that? I think it cost Facebook about $100 million in revenue for 6 hours. Okay. I think all of the consumers that were there, it could have been in the billions, right? Because they no longer had that feed of audience coming in. You have to build your own audiences while you're also leveraging other people's, okay? This was interesting, is 99% of the 4 billion email users check their email every day. Of those, 58% say that is the first thing they do when they wake up. Who does it? Okay, email's not dead. Sometimes in marketing and in commerce, the new sexy thing comes out and we go and jump to it. Y'all don't need TikTok, okay? Most of you don't. It's sexy, everybody thinks it's great, but you need to look at things that are still working, even though it might not be as sexy, and building your audiences is really important. Social media, which I got to, is only play where your target audience is, optimize your profile, engage with those that are engaging with you, and collaborate. I think that social media can be very overwhelming, but if you narrow it down to one, maybe two things where you know where that target audience is, it's not as overwhelming. And then you can start building paid on top of that. So Twitter or X, mainly men. The primary, and you can look this up. You can look up like daily users of these certain things. Mainly men, okay? Instagram, mainly women. Pinterest is one of the best search engines that you can be on. Nobody's really understanding that Pinterest is huge. So there's all these things. Start with one, start building that, and then go with that. And the other thing is current customers. Actually, I was talking to a friend just now, and most people don't talk to their current customers. If you have a customer, double down on targeting them, like Blake said, and ask them, how did you get to me? Is there anybody else that you think you can use? Repeat customers spend 67% more, and they cost 5 to 10 times less. So go back to those customers, go back to those same profiles. Okay, that was all my time. There's lots more. Thank you guys so much. I'll save questions for after Chad. And then, if you would need anything, call me, beat me, Instagram me. I'm not on anything else. So there you go. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. So far, so good, right? This is great. Well, hopefully it won't be all downhill from here, right? We'll hope we can continue to add this upward trajectory. If you don't know me, so I'm Chad Jardine. I'm the founder and CEO of a fractional CMO firm called CMO Zen. And I've been a full-time CMO for a bunch of companies, maybe some of these that you know. And I've also been an instructor at UVU and the University of Utah. So I teach VC and also some marketing classes. If you'd like a copy of the slides, go ahead and shoot me an email. This is my email. It's just chad@cmozen.com. If you're interested in talking about anything that we're talking about, you can grab my calendar. It's just chadscalendar.com. Okay, and I'll come back to these at the end. So this is one of the things I love about these guys is we did not coordinate anything, right? None of our slides, none of our message was planned ahead of time. We just knew, and their experience, like probably between us, we're knocking on the door of 100 years of experience in marketing, and we just knew that these are the things. And so we each show frameworks that approach these from different ways. In my this stuff over here, that customer pain solution, it's the same brand positioning statement. It's the same key things that Blake mentioned. This just happens to be the way that we go about it at CMO Zen. We do an audit through this with every new client, and we find out where are their gaps in their go-to-market, how far along, how mature are they, and that it gives us a really clear idea of what do they need next, and how can we help them knock that out. All right, so I called my presentation 9 go-to-market mistakes. I thought that was a little rude, but less than optimal decisions based on timing and consequences seemed too long. So when I say mistakes, just hear that, right? Less than optimal decisions. And then we'll also talk about a framework for how to hit your number, both on the sales side and the marketing side. And this isn't the perfect way to do it. It's a framework. It's a model for you to say, okay, I'm going to plug in. Do I know all these things? If there's gaps, then that tells me where I need to focus. Okay. So in order to talk about mistakes, I want to talk about the pattern. Blake and Courtney both kind of mentioned this, but so in sales, founder-led sales is where we start. Then we go to founder-managed, which means we hire salespeople before we hire sales management. When it's time to hire sales management, that's step 3. From there, it's about taking that organization and a little Salesforce math, scaling things up. So where does marketing play along this timeline? This is like the marketing version of that. In the beginning, right, our go-to-market foundations, go-to-market used to just be a code word for sales. It's not kind of that way anymore. Really what we're talking about is this collaborative effort between sales, marketing, and product to get something off the ground. And it's to prove out those assumptions from the canvas that I showed. Then as soon as we start having some salespeople, now we've got these mouths to feed. These guys want to be closing deals, and we need to be generating leads for them. And so it shifts. Sometimes the team that does the step 1 is not the right team to do step 2. That can be confusing. Then once we get into a sales manager, professional sales team, it's about being lockstep with sales. It's about creating this tight organization where marketing is just delivering the things that sales need. And from there, we face scaling problems. That's the next big step. Okay. So from here, we'll talk about where can you go wrong. One is not doing founder-led sales. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you might not do this step, but this is the pattern. If you're going to break the pattern, do it on purpose and because you know better, not because you just didn't know the pattern, right? So this is Sam Altman. He's the former president of Y Combinator and the founder of OpenAI, right, which does ChatGPT and DALL-E and all these. And so from his experience at Y Combinator, investing in, I think, 700 plus companies during his tenure, this is what he has to say. Great founders don't put anyone between themselves and their users. You've got to do this yourself. It's the only way. That's a pretty strong echo for founder-led sales. Number 2, hiring only one AE. Now, sometimes this can be tough. This is like, I would go back to your question about hiring the SDR. It can be tough to generate enough revenue to be able to afford to hire 2 salespeople at your first go. But if you can, there's a reason why that's an advantage. If you hire 2, you're going to start to see differences between them. You're going to start to learn things about how you're going to be able to take things that each of them learns and give it to the other one. So if you can, that's the pattern, right? Hire 2. Number 3, promoting your top AE to be the manager over the sales team. This feels so natural. Like, dude, he's killing it. We got to reward him. He is, and so we promote him. Or she's the best one. She closes more than anybody else. We got to make her the manager over the team. And what we're forgetting is that we're asking somebody to do a job that they're taking them from the job they're awesome at and putting them in a job that they might be okay at, but it's not the thing that they're best at. So it's like, I use Phil Jackson as an example here because like, hey, Chad, you realize he actually was a player and a coach, right? It's like, well, that's true. But nobody's talking about this Phil, right? Phil's player days were, I mean, it's not that he was bad, he was good. But what really was awesome was this Phil. And that's kind of the same in your sales team. Okay, mistake number 4, hiring a head of sales too early. Why? Why do you hire the the AE first and then hire the manager after you have a team of AEs. It's really because what a sales lead is great at is optimizing sales teams. So that you're like, okay, I want you to come in, but I'm going to have you actually sell first. And then as we get enough revenue, we're going to start hiring a team and you'll be the manager over that team. And now we've committed two mistakes in one. We're bringing them in too early and asking them to do something that's not their core strength. And that's why it's a mistake. All right, mistake number 5 is you pour gas on your go-to-market before you validated your assumptions. So all of those things, right? The customer, does the product solve their pain? Your customer, what's their pain? What's our solution? What are the alternatives that we're positioning against? And what makes us different, better, or special? If you haven't validated those things, you end up wasting a lot of money. So here's an example. This is, if any of you guys know Paul Ahlstrom, he's local, Alta Ventures here in Lehigh. And Paul was a co-author of Nail It, Then Scale It. And this is one of the big takeaways from Nail It, Then Scale It, is entrepreneurs innovate, customers validate. You need validation of those key things. And to what level? Like, are you confident? Yeah, we know we have the right customer. When we talk to this person, they close a lot. When we use this message, people respond a lot. Mistake number 6, right? I stole this from John Huntinghouse. I love John. So he's fond of saying that marketers don't starve, they drown. And what he means is there's so much stuff, right? We work with clients and it's really common for somebody to come in and they're like, what should we do of these 25 things? Because they're looking around at the competition and they're like, man, it seems like everybody else is doing every channel at like full throttle, 100%. And we're just sitting here, we can't even get one off the ground. And they don't realize that's not actually true. People aren't doing it. But also if they try to do that, if they try to do all of those channels at once, 100% they will fail. You just can't do it. You don't have the resources and you don't have the feedback loops to get good at all of them as you go. So the thing is, it's also a mistake to only have one channel. In the beginning, maybe you have one channel, you lean in, but channel isolation risk is a real thing, right? How many of you guys remember the iOS 14 update that like basically scuttled everybody who was making bank on Facebook, right? It's channel isolation risk. So what I like to do here is talk about bullets before cannonballs. This is a line that I stole from Great by Choice, which is a Jim Collins book that followed Good to Great. And it's like, I want to find where the channels are that are working, and I want to lean in, exploit the heck out of the channels that are working. And if I don't have any, I want to find one. And then I want to run small tests to find the channels that I can add to my program. Everybody's mostly at this stage looking for a similar thing, which is, hey, if I could have maybe between 4 to 6 inbound channels that were predictable and consistent all the time, I'd be golden. And you would be. You'd be ready to start scaling things up. All right. Mistake number 8, hiring wrong between brand and demand. What do I mean by this? Well, in marketing, there's a lot of ways to, like, marketing's huge. There's so much stuff. And so one of the easy ways to segment marketers is into brand-focused marketers or demand gen, ops analytics-focused marketers. And if you're there, it's like, well, I've got my job description out. I'm ready to add to the team. And somebody's coming in and they're not what I expected. They're one side or the other of this camp. Which should I pick? And this is kind of how these camps play out, right? So it's like right brain, left brain. Now, all the best marketers and salespeople are using both sides of their brain. I don't want to push too hard on that. But the creative side of things, right? My writing, my design, my brand building, that's on one side. On the other side, it's all my ops, my demand gen, my analytics, right? Am I like a quant marketer? And you need both of these things to happen in your company. So how do you figure out what the right proportion is? So Jason Lemkin got 2 slides, that dirty rat. But these are, I think, really thoughtful approaches to this. So here he's saying, hey, in the early days, I like this 70-20-10 rule. 70% is measurable ROI. 20% brand activities, 10% experiments. Another way that these are quotes from 2 different sources. Another way he's approaching that is, hey, at $1 million in ARR, brand marketing doesn't make a lot of sense. Really, the way I look at that is your brand marketing when you're small is the mind of every closed sale. That's where your brand is growing, is in the mind of every deal that you close. 10 million ARR, oh, hey, let's invest some there. At 100 million ARR, it's most of what you're doing. And at $1 billion, it's everything. And here's an example, right? So Airbnb they publicly made this shift. They shut down all of their demand gen, all their performance marketing, and went exclusively to a brand marketing approach. And they did it when they had a market cap of 96 billion, which feels about right. Okay, mistake number 9, hiring a head of marketing too early. And again, so this is a little bit of a, I guess, a little bit of a plug for the fractional model, because I've been this hire, and that's really one of the things that motivated me to start CMO Zen. Was I'd been a hire where the company stretched. Like, look, we want to get somebody senior, somebody who's got a lot of experience, and so they stretched. I joined the company as like the highest paid person on the payroll, and I'm there, and I'm like, all right, what is that person good at? Optimizing teams. I can spin a lot of plates, and it's like, oh no, you're the team. So now what they have is most days they end up with essentially an overpaid designer, event planner, writer, and that could have been done less expensively. So with the fractional model, we actually kind of approach that and say, if you have a junior marketer, the junior marketer usually is willing to do whatever you tell them. But if you ask them to tell you what to do, they don't yet have the experience in their career to do that. So but you can get that experience, and you don't have to pay full time for it. That's really what the fractional model is about. So you have a team with a junior marketer in-house and a fractional lead. And I think that's the way that we'll see more and more companies build in the future. Okay, shifting gears now to, this is I'm committing a like PowerPoint sin here, because I'm going to put numbers up on the screen that require you to do math in your head. Forgive me, but I think this will be useful for you. It might be useful more when you ask for the slides later, but let's take a look. So let's talk about hitting a number. Let's say I have a sales target. I'm going to hit 12 million in revenue. So the first thing I said, well, where are we right now? We have 2 million. This is a big leap, right? I mean, this is a 6x growth in sales. Okay, that tells us that we know we need 10 million in net new sales, right? Some of you are thinking, it's like, what about churn? It's like, okay, we'll just put that on the side for right now. It's part of the framework, but we'll put it on the side. And in this case, let's say we have an ACV of 50K. Now, one of the things you were saying, oh, what if I don't know my ACV? Well, now you know what the thing is you need to figure out, right? That's the next step for you. Is in order to be able to do this math, you need to know what the ACV looks like. So at an ACV of 50K, new sales of 10 million, that means I need 200 new deals. And whatever the time frame is, right? If I'm going to do it in a year, if I'm going to do it in 5 years, it's the same. I'm going to get there by closing this many deals. And this math is pretty simple. Okay, now let's take a look at what that looks like on the sales side and the marketing side. So on the marketing side, we're going to look and say, we need to know what our customer acquisition cost is, right? So the other thing, the reason this says top down at the top is this is how you prepare a top down budget for marketing or sales. So our CAC is 5K, and we need 200 customers. That means we got $1 million budget. We spend $1 million in customer acquisition. We ought to be able to generate those 200 deals, and that will get us to the 12 million in sales we're shooting for, right? We might need some extra team members, right? We might not have the team to do this, or we might need some extra relationships with vendors or other things. So in this case, I said, well, let's say we have 2 or 3 other team members at an extra 300K. That gets me to 1.3 million. That's what I need in marketing to hit 12 million. And in your actual case, right, you can plug these in with what your actual details are and see what that looks like. Let's look at the sales side. Okay, so let's say that our account exec, our sales rep, on target earnings, that's their base plus commissions. Let's say that's at 200K. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on your industry. But let's say 200K because that makes the math easy. And let's look at their quota. In SaaS, it's typical for quotas to be like 4 to 6x, sometimes north or south of that, depending on your industry. So let's split the difference and say our quota is going to be 5x our OTE. And so that means that each sales rep should be able to close 20 deals or $1 million in ACV. That means we need 10 reps. 10 reps times the 200K in OTE means we need to spend $2 million to hire those reps. Sorry. Maybe we need some SDRs. Depending on your industry, this ratio could be all over the place, but I wanted to plug it in. In this case, let's say we have 1 SDR for every 2 reps. And at 100K, that means we add another 500K to the mix. So now our total sales cost is $2.5 million to get to 12 million in revenue. So now we add those together, and for 3.8 million, we can generate 12 million in sales. And I realize like this is the deep stack of assumptions, right? But the framework lets you break that down and figure out, okay, where are we in this? if you're going out to raise money, early stage companies' use of proceeds almost always look like this. Here's the pie. Most of the pie is split in two camps. One is sales and marketing. The other one is product. Right? So if we add, say, 25% to that, then this gives us an idea of how much sales and marketing use of proceeds we want when we go out to raise money. You're like, man, I'm only $2 million in sales. I'm going to raise $4.75 million. Well, that was a pretty aggressive leap. We wanted to hit a pretty aggressive growth track. So that's what you're up against anyway. Okay, couple of bullet points to consider that I didn't include in the math is AEs usually don't hit quota on day one. I don't know, Blake. Sometimes. So you gotta figure out the time to ramp. So if I'm making a plan for how fast I want to hit this goal, I need to include time to both hire and ramp salespeople in order to get 10 salespeople hitting quota. If my CAC payback period is going to be important, that's going to give me my road to profitability. So if this is the J curve model, right? If I'm a software company from like 5 years ago, what I'm doing is I'm saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit payback in like 30 months. Now everybody's like, okay, is your payback longer than 12 months, right? If I add in churn to the calculation, that gives me my net revenue retention, also a key metric. And I'm going to look at LTV to CAC if my payback is over 1 year. If your CAC payback is less than a year, you don't need to worry about LTV. It's just not relevant. LTV is only about mapping the long-term payback, and you're short-term. So, okay. One last shot. So this, I'll have this available for you. Again, you can email me or reach out to me at chadscalendar.com, and that's my presentation. We'll go ahead and get the three of us up here and do Q&A for the rest of our time. Thank you so much for coming and excited to answer questions. Let's move the chairs in the middle a little bit. I think we're outside the point of view for the live stream. Now I feel really tall after being down here. Questions? Yes.
I think if you're really early, there are so many great frameworks. Like Shopify has your B2C, right? That's why I mentioned Shopify. Shopify, not Spotify, right? Okay. Just making sure, my pregnancy brain. They have frameworks for websites that you can plug and play your content. You can put it in yourself. You don't need to hire somebody. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more integrated, if you're more in a B2B model, there's a lot of outside developers. As you get bigger, hiring someone in-house is good, but I wouldn't suggest that until you have like a team of like 10, 11 people on your marketing team. So yeah, I start, depending on where you're at, start with the frameworks that are already built. Squarespace, what starts with a W? Wix, thank you. There's a lot of frameworks that I would just start with. Yeah. Questions? For those on the stream, he's asking what things validate or invalidate. As we talk about validating those things, what type of things validate and invalidate that?
Work. There we go. I think I would separate, like, put in two buckets. I would do everything before pre-opportunity, and then everything post-opportunity. Everything pre-opportunity, you're looking for, can I get meetings scheduled? Can I reach out to people, whatever channel, and can I get meetings on the books? And then separating those meetings from what's turning into a qualified opportunity that's progressing, right? And then if you can even get that far, that's like step one. Go figure out how to get meetings booked. If you can do that consistently, it's a really good problem to have. Then you got a different problem, which is then like, how do you push things through the funnel? I'm working with a customer right now that has the exact problem. They've been around for 15 years. Top of funnel is incredible. They are missing converting, the conversion process. So there's something wrong there. I don't exactly know what it is quite yet, but from what I would call discovery forward or through a close, something's not happening there. And it might be a basic skill set, but measure each of those steps meticulously and what's happening. I think to your question, like when something gets into the funnel, I'm actually trying to disqualify it out as fast as possible. A lot of times founders get happy years and they like everything's an opportunity. And then they realize something sits in a funnel for like 4 months and they haven't reached back out or whatever. I actually want to qualify those out a hell of a lot faster to then validate what's staying in the funnel and actually progressing through the funnel. At the end of the day, people vote with their money. So if people aren't buying, there's something wrong. So if you're not pushing people all the way through the funnel and they're proactively pulling out credit card, PO, whatever, and purchasing, there's something wrong.
In the invalidate, you just brought up something. Be willing to close them out. I just wanted to double down on that. So many people just keep things in their pipeline, like hope and a dream. This thing is like going to be worth $2 million. Close it out. That's invalidation. It's almost as great to have something that says no than it is to say yes, because it puts you on a better path. Here, I'm going to have you say that into the mic also so I can like think about it for a second longer.
In looking at the go-to-market frameworks that you're giving, if you have the option of distribution model like B2B or versus direct-to-consumer, what sort of tests or things would you do to decide how you're going to get that product out?
Yeah, I can tell you how I approach that. So what I do is I have a list of like, okay, here's all the likely suspects. And almost always immediately a bunch of them are going to be disqualified. So, okay, this is not option. So we're down to a question about 2 or 3 options. It is important, right? The distribution channel is a really difficult thing to change after you're in market. So I guess the question is, how would we make that decision? Probably there's not a way to 100% predict the future. One of the things I like to tell my clients is that marketing is a lot more a scientific method than it is like voodoo and pixie dust, because it feels like we make right or wrong decisions in marketing. Like essentially we're going to look at our crystal ball and make a prediction. If the prediction comes true, what great marketers we are. And that's rarely what actually you're doing. Really what you want to do is stack up all of the deck of probability for the best decision that you can make at the time. And then you invest in the direction knowing that there's gaps. I think also not knowing exactly the particulars about your situation, I think also there are probably tests that you could run to narrow the decision down. And maybe what we want to, it may be as simple as a survey. It may be to where we take a look at what the cost is of our various options. It's like, well, we have less risk if we do a less costly option up front. If we think that there's a chance we might have to pivot later, then I'd rather pivot making inexpensive moves forward than have invested a lot and have, it would be harder to come back from that. Is that did answer your follow-up? Okay.
Yes, and it wasn't on my slides, but I will add it into the slides and put it up there. But you can contact me via LinkedIn, or it's courtney.r.osborne@gmail.com. So.
Pete. Ooh.
I know most of mine have been a big chunk of mine have been a bonus structure, like 25% in most of my scenarios have been a bonus structure, and I've been pretty successful. So I would say it's better, like base, yes, but I think a bonus structure is really, really valuable. But anybody else?
I would just say to that, you've seen pricing more than I have in that regard. I would say that if you have, if things are muddy, if what you're measuring is unclear, it's really hard to implement a bonus structure. So the prerequisite to having an effective bonus structure is because the marketer has to be able to feel like they have control over. It's the same in sales, right? If the variable part of my comp has to be something that I can believe in, that I can go out and get. And so that's the only other thing I would add.
And I would say it can't be subjective to
like your
somebody
boss or-
else, like the salesperson. It has to be objective to the top line company goals and be able to measure. That's a good point. I've had it both. So, and in structuring team members, now sometimes I wasn't always perfect at this, structuring team members, it was based on what they can control. So, but usually on the very top line, it's on revenue for everybody, because if you're not hitting your revenue goals as a company, nobody's getting their bonus, right? And then depending on the level of the individual, it kind of goes down from there. If you're a VP of marketing, it's going to be on revenue, or it's going to be based on sourced revenue, sourced by certain things. And then if it goes down, it's based lower than that. So. Personally, like us, I feel like I answered. Oh, okay. I was like, say, I would say if they do not know or have sales already, I will probably refuse to work with them. If they're expecting marketing to be sales, personally, based in my experience, I'm not the right person for that. So that's the first thing. Do they already have sales? Have they already generated some form of revenue that we can have as a foundation to then launch marketing on top of? That would be my first thing.
Yeah, the things that kind of are red flags for me are sometimes expectations are unrealistic, right? It's like, okay, I'm looking for fractional help because my budget matches fractional help, but my expectations are actually 2x full-time, right? And so that can be difficult. I think also if sometimes I'll look at a company and I'll be like, I think you're doing everything that I would do. So I don't feel like that. Like I want to be able to make a big difference, not just an incremental difference. And so if I don't feel like I can, then I refer them to somebody who I think is a better fit for where they're at.
Pre-revenue. I don't do anything pre-revenue because if the founder can't sell it, then I won't be able to help them. They have the other problems. And if they're an asshole.
Mohammed? Yeah. Oh, fun.
Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. I have an answer, but I don't want to dominate. So one of the things that how I see this is I'll often talk with founders and they have had a bad experience with a marketing agency. And so they've used an agency and then like you talk to the founders, talk to the agency, and both sides are like, those dirty lying rats, you know. And then you dig in a little bit and really there was nobody in the middle of that deal that could have provided what it needed to be successful. The founder doesn't know what the agency needs to win. And if the agencies oftentimes are narrow, right? They're focused on SEO, or they're focused on video, they're focused on demand gen or ops or something. And so if they don't have sort of a senior view, they won't know how to tell the founder what, like everything's a nail if you're a hammer, right? So, oh, you need marketing help? It's SEO, because that's what I do. And really what they need is a strategic person in there who can speak the language of both. And I think in your example, right, there is a side of where what we're trying to do is pluck the heartstrings or play on the emotions or cause a transformation in the heart and mind of the prospect. And the tools for that are sometimes squishy to what we're used to in engineering. And so what I would say is that I would look for somebody who can translate, who can communicate both sides of that, because there's value in both. It's not like we just don't need the other side. We do, but there will be people who can speak to both of those sides.
Yeah, and those are usually product marketers or product managers. It's kind of that same concept. But when you're really early, just no ego, amigo. Like nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Talk to each other. Because you might have an idea for a color for the website that you would be like, oh, that's normal, and let's go test it, right? So it depends on where you're at. So you could find that person and have that interaction. But the main thing, kind of going back, is know what you're trying to drive, have accountability with each other, but then talk to each other. And there is no right or wrong. That's what's interesting in business is there's so many ways to make money. There's so many products to build. There's so many problems to solve that if you think like, oh, it has to be this way, just try it. Why not? So
I think we're probably at time, but we'll hang out a little bit and happy to talk to you if you have other questions. Thanks so much, everybody.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.